A very good evening to all. It's time for Children's Bedtime Treasury with Let Emotion Speak. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, comment how you like the story, and subscribe to my channel for more bedtime stories each night. Today's story is about the Bear and the Ice Kingdom. Once upon a time, a king ruled a far off land. It was a sunny, pleasant kingdom with lush forests, green meadows, and sparkling rivers. The king of this land had a daughter he loved very much, and who one day would rule the kingdom. Beyond the king's land was another kingdom, but this one was very different. It was an icy cold place with wind-swept, snowy plains and cold frozen seas. The sun never warmed this kingdom, and it was always winter. Anyone or anything venturing into this kingdom was immediately turned to ice by the cold. This kingdom was ruled by a wicked ogre, whose wish was to own the warm lands of his neighbor. One day, the wicked ogre thought of a cunning plan to capture the kingdom he desired. He decided he would kidnap the king's daughter. Once she had entered the wicked ogre's ice kingdom, she too would be turned into ice. In time, the king would die, and as there would be no one to inherit his kingdom, the wicked ogre could seize it. So one day, the wicked ogre left his own cold kingdom and traveled to the other kingdom disguised as a merchant. He carried a big bag containing some samples of cloth and some jewelry. The wicked ogre came to the castle gates and asked if he might show the princess his wares. She agreed and showed him to a room where he laid out the cloth and jewelry on a table. To look at the wares, the wicked ogre bundled her up in the bag and carried her off. As soon as the princess felt the cold chill of the wicked ogre's kingdom, she was immediately frozen to ice. The wicked ogre thought that all he now had to do was wait for the king to die of old age or a broken heart, and the kingdom would be his. But despite the cunning of the wicked ogre, his evil deed had been spotted by one of the king's courtiers. The king immediately sent his troops to the Ice Kingdom to rescue his daughter. But as soon as they reached the kingdom, they too were frozen to ice. The king was in despair. There seemed to be no way to get his beloved daughter back. Then, one day, he thought of an idea. He sent out a royal proclamation to every part of his land. It said that anyone who could rescue his daughter would be granted any gift within the king's power to bestow. Many adventurers tried to rescue the king's daughter in the hope that they might win her hand in marriage or be granted riches and lands as a reward. But each who ventured into the evil ogre's ice kingdom met the same fate. All were turned to ice. Then one day, the king's dancing bear read the royal proclamation and asked to speak with the king. "Your Majesty," said the dancing bear, "I have a plan to rescue your daughter, the princess." "And what's your plan?" asked the king. "My plan is a secret, Your Majesty," said the dancing bear. "But if you will trust me, I promise she will be brought safely home." The king agreed to let the dancing bear try and rescue his daughter. After all, every other attempt had ended in failure, so what did he have to lose? The dancing bear was released from his chain and went off immediately to begin his task. He traveled day and night until finally he reached his destination, a cold, snowy place where his cousin lived. His cousin was not like the dancing bear, however. The dancing bear was small and brown, but his cousin was big and white. This bear loved the cold and snow, for he had a thick fur coat. He was a polar bear. The dancing bear told his cousin what had befallen the king's daughter. The polar bear agreed to rescue her. The dancing bear couldn't wait to get going, for his cousin's snowy home was much too cold for him. Eventually, they arrived back in the king's land, and the polar bear set off alone to try and rescue the princess. Soon, he reached the wicked ogre's ice kingdom. A freezing icy wind blew all around the polar bear, but his thick warm fur coat kept out the cold. Then a huge snowstorm came up, but the polar bear just shook his fur and all the snow fell from him. On went the polar bear until he reached the wicked ogre's castle. The ogre never explained that anyone would be able to enter his cold kingdom without being turned to ice, so he never even locked his doors. While the ogre was snoring in his bedroom, the polar bear searched stealthily around the castle until he found the frozen princess. He gently gathered her up, and they were just about to make their escape when the ogre awoke. As the wicked ogre tried to snatch the princess away from the polar bear dealt the wicked ogre a mighty blow with his paw. The wicked ogre fell down dead. The polar bear then carried the princess away from the icy kingdom. As soon as she entered her father's warm kingdom again, she turned to life. There was much rejoicing at the return of the king's daughter. Of course, and the first thing the king did was to summon the dancing bear to him. "You have kept your promise," said the king, "and now I will keep mine. What is your wish?" "All I ask, your majesty, is that I am free to roam the forest of your kingdom." The king immediately granted his wish, and as a reward to the polar bear, he was given the ice kingdom as his own domain, which, being so cold, suited him just fine. So how did you find the story? Let me know in the comments below. It's time to say goodbye and good night. See you tomorrow with another bedtime story.